40 plus millionaires still traveling 130 countries. Here in Bali, we have 52 schools. I'm just blessed to have this whole journey through the ups and the downs, recognizing what I'm good and bad at, but what makes me happy.
He's a multimillionaire who enjoys traveling around the world, and it all started with a hobby that he discovered in high school.
He's known as the rebel millionaire.
His name is Sykes.
No one wants to go through the pain or the suffering.
I like to say and tell people that it's a rite of passage to blow up your account.
Yeah.
Because that you need to feel that pain to know what happens when you break the rules. And if you break the rules, you're going to get disqualified.
You learn so much over time versus somebody who's been trading like a week or a month or a year.
Yeah, from your 20 years experience and all the things that you had to go through, all the mistakes, what would you say to a new trader who's learning to get started and go through this process to find success like your other top students?
Yeah, I would say...
All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to episode 2. Here with Tim Sykes, long lost buddy of mine. We go quite a far way back when I think about it, almost maybe 2006, 2008.
I can't think that far back. I'm not good at math.
It's a long, long time ago. And funny, so how I actually found out about you was, one, I saw your book pop up somewhere. I think it was called The American Hedge Fund.
Yeah.
Which I do want to recap because I read it. It's been fucking 20 years.
Amazing. I mean, I'm just honored that you read.
Yeah. But at one point, I had my website, thetechnicaltrader.net. You had your website, Timothy Sykes. And I visited your website, and you had like a little box with like 5 websites that you recommend. And you put mine up there.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's going on? Who is this guy? How does he know who I am? So that, for me, that was like an accomplishment of myself of like notoriety, because like, oh, this guy that actually wrote a book put my website on there. And this was 2006,
no,
2007.
I remember even from back then, you were really good at charting. Like you had really good illustrations. You've always been like graphically oriented. Yeah. And I'm not. I'm terrible at graphics. I'm terrible at programming. I'm terrible at math.
Yeah. You even actually contacted me at one point to talk about web design for my website.
100%. I should have talked to you about Bali, like villa design too.
Yeah, that's funny. So anyways, let's actually get back to kind of where this started for you. I know it kind of started with your bar mitzvah story, which then turned into your book, telling that kind of story with the American Hedge Fund. So kind of give us a recap on how that all started and what happened in that book. What was the kind of the...
It's been a crazy journey. Yeah. 20 plus years ago, my parents gave me control of the bar mitzvah money, 12 grand, thinking I would lose it all in the stock market. I got obsessed with charts. I was also right place, right time, 1999, 2000, in the dot-com boom. So I turned the 12,000 into 100,000 senior year of high school. Freshman year, made 700,000. At that point, I'm hooked. And for me, like, I didn't grow up with much money, so I always wanted to travel. So I've traded and traveled, but at the same time, I've never really been able to scale. I'm a little too impatient. I'm self-taught, which has held me back my entire life. So I tried running a hedge fund after I had made like nearly $2 million before I graduated college. Sucked at running the hedge fund because there's investor expectations. I was also in college. Don't start a hedge fund while you're in college.
Still partying.
Sometimes I'm like, I'm partying, or I'm like in class and I miss a trade. Sometimes I take a meeting and then I miss a trade. Sometimes I take the trade and then I miss a meeting, and a missed class is a mess. But I made a few million and I couldn't really scale it up that much. I was on this TV show called Wall Street Warriors. It became a hit. I was drunk in every episode, so I was funnier than the sober people. Everyone wanted to know my strategy, but I was running a hedge fund at the time, which wasn't going anywhere. So I closed the hedge fund, wrote the book, started teaching. Everyone's like, what are you doing? Leaving a multi-trillion-dollar business for like a snake oil business? Yeah. I was like, well, I'm not really good at scaling my strategy. I can learn, and I have learned from my losses and my gains, so I might as well teach it. Most people are frauds, so let me just be real. And I've been teaching for 15 years ever since. And now 40 plus millionaires still traveling 130 countries, donating all my trading profits to charity these days. We're at 10 million donated. Here in Bali, we have 52 schools. So trading, traveling, giving back, you try to find what works for you. You live here now in Bali, which is awesome. Yeah. I'm visiting, we have schools opening nonstop. And I'm just blessed to have this whole journey through the ups and the downs, recognizing what I'm good and bad at, but what makes me happy.
Yeah. So you said there that you had trouble scaling, was that a liquidity issue because you're trading penny stocks and based on the size of scale, you can only buy or sell a certain amount because the order book is so thin?
Yeah, some liquidity, but a lot of it is just personal. I'm too impatient. I can't really hold that long. Like if I'm up like $5 or $10 or $20,000, I know what that goes to in the real world.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I take the 20,000. Then like 2 hours later, it'd be 200,000.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot. There's a saying like teachers are those who can't do. So for me, I'm a teacher. I have made a few million, but my students, like, Tim Grittani, he's made nearly 15 million. Yeah. Jack Kellogg has now made 12 million. These are my students who have doubled me in a fraction of the time because I think they were taught the right way. So there is a little liquidity, but at the same time, I could have made, I'm at 7.6 million.
Yeah.
Probably could have made 15, 20, 30, 50 million if I had, better training, but I'm too emotional. You know this.
Yeah.
I'm all over the place. I'm too impatient. And so I try to teach from my successes and my failures, my shortcomings.
Yeah. And even when you say that, you could have made 15 million. With that 15 million, shooting for that probably could have brought a lot more stress in your life as well. Because when you're going for those bigger gains, that just means you're more so living on the edge, you're risking more, which also can bring down your just ability to actually enjoy life.
And it's crazy because everyone focuses how much money can you make in trading in the markets. You don't realize what comes with it, right? Yeah. There's consequences. Like Jack gets very stressed out. He takes like weeks off where he's just going like on fishing trips and he's like, I need peace. Tim Grittani is basically retired with 2 kids living his dream life, but doesn't really want to trade because if he sizes up, it's very stressful.
Yeah.
If he doesn't size up, then he knows he's like half-assing it. So like a lot of the biggest traders that I know, like, I don't know if you know Lucas too, like Short Bear and Lance, a lot of these upcoming traders, they've made tens of millions of dollars, but they don't enjoy trading anymore because it's too stressful. It's like, when you make enough to live very well, what's the point? Why do you want to be so stressed and like feel like you have a heart attack? This is why I don't short sell anymore. I could make more money short selling. A lot of these penny stocks fail, but it's so stressful, it's so risky, and I just don't want that.
Yeah. So we were talking about that a little bit before we started filming about how you don't short sell, but you pretty much made the main name for yourself by being the short seller of penny stocks. So kind of walk us through what changed and how you went from being the guy known for short selling these pump and dumps to now you don't even want anything to do with it.
Yeah. So, I shorted years ago and a lot of these pump and dumps were just so blatant. It was so obvious. Like I'm exposing them. They're like based in like P.O. boxes or barns. And it was just really surprising, but it's always been difficult to find shares to short. I have like a music video called No Borrow, No Cry, where there were so many pump and dumps that I wanted to short and there were no shares to short. Now there's more shares to short because I basically popularized this strategy. Little brokers have popped up and now they're doling out shares. But the dynamics of the market have changed. There's more shares, there's more pump and dumps, but in a bull market and more shares creates these giant squeezes because you have a lot of newbies shorting. I always cut losses quickly. That's my rule number 1, no matter what. So I have a lot of small losses. But the newbies don't cut losses, and a lot of the biggest short sellers don't cut losses because they know that it's always going to crash. The pump and dump will crash. So they try to outrun the squeeze, but sometimes they get caught. So a lot of the biggest short sellers now still make millions, but they lose hundreds of thousands or millions in some of these squeezes. And so it's just very stressful. You never know which one is going to be the big one that blows you up. You can win 50 times and then one goes against you and you lose all your 50. So again, for me, it's not the most money I can make. Now I go long and I teach a very simple strategy. I go back to 12,000 every year. Like this year, 3 months in, I'm up about 85,000 on my 12,000, which is fantastic for a $12,000 account. Making 500, 1,000, 2,000, losing 100, 200. You find your sweet spot.
Yeah. And what about, because I don't know if this is still existing now, because I haven't followed stocks for years since I left. I basically quit stocks in 2018, full crypto since 2020.
Yeah.
But during the time when you were shorting a lot of these pump and dumps, there's kind of 2 different markets, right? There's the market of pump and dump where there was like the penny stock newsletters where it's literally somebody getting paid, like you said, in some shit box, but they're making millions because they're getting paid in whether cash or actual shares of the stock to then pump it and then dump it at some point. And then once there's no buyers left, they dump it and then everyone eats shit and loses who bought in. Yet you were making money on the way down. But there's also just short squeezes like GameStop, which is just kind of like a mass hysteria of a real company that squeezed to the upside. So is there still penny stock newsletters pump and dumps that are happening now, or the squeezes that you're talking about more so like GameStop? Brief interruption here, guys. Did you know that 75% of traders have accounts under $25,000? This creates a huge problem because even if you double that account in a year, which is almost impossible, you're still only making $25,000. Introducing Hydra Funding, where you can potentially get access up to $500,000 in capital. All you have to do, guys, is sign up for a challenge account, which is going to give you potentially access up to $500,000. And if you earn a 10% profit in this demo account without going into a 5% loss overall or a 4% loss in a day, you will then pass their evaluation phase and yes, get access to an account with the selected size account. And now, instead of trying to double a $10,000 account, you could potentially earn only 10% on a $100,000 account to earn the same level of profits. And the benefits of this are huge. Rather than risking your entire $10,000 on one account, you can use just $1,000 to potentially get access to $100,000 in capital. You can trade crypto, Forex, stocks, CFTs, gold, oil, everything under the sun, all on MT4 and MT5. If you're interested, if you have an account under $25,000, like 75% of traders out there, you're not going to make any money with that account because it's too small. Get access to pro level funding and pro level capital with Hydra Funding. Link's going to be below.
So there's newsletters, but not so much like the blatant pump and dump newsletters anymore. Now there's like a lot of chat rooms. There's a lot of Discord chat rooms where they're like all trying to buy stocks together. Like there was Atlas Trading. I don't know if you remember them. Did you leave stocks before Atlas Trading?
I don't recall of Atlas Trading
so
now.
Atlas Trading were like all these associated Discord chat rooms, and one would buy and then another and then another, and they would stagger their buying and they would all talk, the moderators. And like they got busted, all of their little text messages, like we're pumping to morons, like, and it was all exposed. I think one or two of them turned on the other 8, but it just got thrown out a few weeks ago. And it's crazy. They're all free. So like, I want more promoters. I want the promotions, not because like I want people to get scammed, but I want that volatility. Like I think it's great that pump and dumps are being created, that if you recognize their pumps and you don't hold on too long, you can ride the volatility. So like I don't short sell anymore. Where am I going to make money? I'm riding a lot of these pumps, or I'm riding these short squeezes. I say like, buy the hype, just never believe it. And I think you can get off the train in time, but frankly, it's much easier if you know that there's a promo, if you know that there's a group behind it, they're gonna pump in it. It's not necessarily chat rooms, it could be the company themselves. Sometimes a company puts out a press release, says we have a new product coming out 2 months from now. And then every 2 or 3 days, they're putting out different press releases teasing the 2-month promotion.
To build up to buy the rumor, sell the news.
But we need more promoters. Atlas Trading is free now, so I'm like tweeting at all of them. I was like, wait, I actually have a gift for you. Hold on, keep recording. I'm gonna show you this gift.
Yeah.
I bring gifts. I don't know if you can film this.
Yeah.
But it's funny that we talked about this. I didn't plan it.
Okay,
So we got hacks.
Right there. Make pumps great again. Hashtag
Atlas Trading. Let's go. Send this video. Right? I got these made. I was in Dubai the other day and I was like riding around in like a car boat thing, and I wore this and I was like, yo, let's make pumps great again. And I'm trying to get people to spread this. So please like clip this. Let's put this video out there. Send it to your friends. Get Atlas pumping. They're all free now. They literally have videos of like cutting off their anklets. Like it's crazy.
So they got off scot-free?
They got off scot-free.
Really? So technically they weren't doing anything illegal.
I mean, look, I'm not a lawyer, right? So I guess according to the judge or the rules, like it's not, I mean, it's certainly unethical where they're pumping. Like a lot of people, they didn't teach cutting losses. They didn't teach any risk management. They're just like, just buy, it'll double. And this was during like 2020, 2021 when everything did double. And then people get wrecked 2022, 2023.
So they weren't really providing any strategy. Well, basically, I watched you
can take the shit off. I feel dirty. I feel dirty. I just want to make a point, okay? It's disgusting.
I watched a training video on how to make better YouTube videos, and one of the biggest points that I saw for it was make every YouTube video, if you want to go viral and scale, the video has to be comprehensible from a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Because it needs to have that sort of audience. And if you can teach people, kind of like what I assume Atlas was doing, was we're not even going to teach you shit. All we're going to say is you're going to get rich if you buy this. That's scalable across the board to everyone, as opposed to, hey guys, we need to learn some risk management here. You don't want to go in too big. You want to make sure you lock in profits on the way up.
Nope.
That's not
to their credit, I think they did take some profits, but they didn't take losses.
Yeah.
So they did profit, but then when things crashed, they would just double up, triple up, quadruple up.
Yeah.
And from the lawsuit, they were actually like tweeting that they were like holding and then they were selling. So like, you know, there's
differences of,
I don't know. All I want is more pumps. Okay.
Yeah.
Like there's always going to be pumpers, whether it's a chat room, whether it's a newsletter, whether it's a sketchy company. You just need that volatility as a trader.
Yeah.
But you and I know, like, you can ride things, you can sell, you don't have to follow the crowd. You shouldn't follow the crowd.
Yeah.
And you can take profits along the way.
You essentially have to take advantage of the crowd. Be like, I know that this is going to be a pump. I know that there's going to be a lot of hype and hysteria around this, which could potentially turn into the stock blowing up, of which I can maybe get a piece of the pie. I'm not going to get the whole pizza, but if I can get a couple slices of this, that's what we're trying to accomplish.
I just made a video about this is like a hot pie market. And it's like, what kind of pie do you want? You want apple pie? You want coconut cream pie? You want pumpkin pie? You want blueberry pie? You want rhubarb pie?
Yeah.
And it's like, you get your slice of the pie. And I actually did a podcast with the Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort, which was crazy.
Yeah.
And I was explaining my strategy and he couldn't understand it. He was like, wait, so you're not a promoter? Like, I'm like, no, I'm riding the promos. And he's like, but you can't make that much percent. The promo can crash. I was like, yes, I take like 10, 15% profits. And he's like, huh. And I was like, I made millions shorting it. He's like, wait, so you know it's a pump and you're short? And I was like, yeah. He literally couldn't comprehend because he was the originator of pump and dumps.
Pump and dump pennies,
Godfather. So he's like, why would you trade it when you can like start it? Like he couldn't understand the small gains that I'm taking.
Yeah, which why trade it when you can start it? When you start it, you're the one going to jail, just like he did. So it's like a lot of traders can't understand why would I focus so much on these small gains. Like my average gain over 20 plus years is $1,500 per trade. And it's like, haven't you done more? Like, haven't you moved on? Like that's good for like elementary school. Like people like look down on, like I have haters. They're like, let me know when you're ready to trade big boy stocks. Yeah.
But as a teacher, and this is what I really love, it's really good to teach my students how to make 500 or 1,000. They can scale up later on. Like Tim Grittani, Jack Kellogg.
And that's life-changing for a lot of people.
And it's good to like start small and take those singles and you get experience.
Yeah.
You can always bet bigger later on, but I'm going to take the conservative approach. Trading volatile assets in a conservative approach blows people's minds. Because even crypto is like hodl. Like everyone can make money hodl.
The wag me theory.
You never take profits, so it's, you know, okay, fantastic. Crypto's back. Michael Saylor and I went and got into a debate. He blocked me. Like, he recommended people put their homes and their mortgages and their businesses all on Bitcoin when it was at 60,000.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so irresponsible. Even if it does go to 1 million, I hope it does. But people shouldn't put all their stuff in. It's okay for him. He's already worth a few hundred million. Now he's a few billion. But like most people need to take those profits. And when he recommended it, it was 60,000 down to like 15,000. So most people who mortgage stuff, they lost most or everything. Now it's back up, but you can't last necessarily 2 years down 75%.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Also wanted to, or you said something earlier that made me think about something that I've thought about as well. As a teacher of trading, we've both been in the guru industry of teaching trading for almost 20 years now. And you said you don't want to scale up because it's too much stressful. And also, I've also experienced this as well when I trade for the profit because I know it's going to make a good marketing piece.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it's a good marketing piece, but it also kind of sways you away from being a good teacher because you're stressing yourself out rather than focusing on just like the basics and principles of what you're trying to teach. You're trying to hit this home run to please the crowd and do marketing for your business. So has that also been something you thought about that's been in your strategy of like, okay, I can, like, I was just up 120 grand on this trade just 2 days ago. Now it's down to like 50 or 40. And I'm like, I even posted the screenshot. And you know, when you post,
I voted, I said, take it. I voted.
Yeah, and I've always told people, if you're in a position to take a screenshot to share, I took 25% off.
Right.
So I locked in 25K. I think I'm up like 30K on the open position now.
I would have taken half at least.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm tempted for the big numbers, but at the same time, over the years, I mean, I used to like just trade, like when I would give like a live trading conference, I would just make a trade just so they could see it, whether good or bad. Yeah. Over time, I'm like, it doesn't do me or them any good to take bad trades, to show like bad behavior. The numbers don't matter. I understand like the newbies would like it, like if you hit a big milestone, but it doesn't play out in the long run. And if you're in something long enough, you just want to do right. You want to do it the right way.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people like, they want to just look good for the short term. Okay, you want to hit that big number, fantastic. There's a lot of ways to make, bigger money, but it'll probably lead to blowing up. Either you blow up or your students blow up. So I don't want that. Like, it's still profitable to short sell, but I don't want to give my students the wrong idea thinking that, especially when they're new and they don't know risk management, they don't know how fast these things can move. I don't want to like basically put a grenade in the hand of like a baby. That's what they are. They're babies.
Yeah, they're not experienced.
You tell the baby, don't pull the pin, and the baby's like, doesn't
but
even
what does it do?
Exactly. So is it your fault or is it the baby's fault if you blow up the baby with a grenade? It's your fault.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at, like, I'm trying to teach very cowardly trading. I have the DVD where I talk in a high pitched voice and I say I'm a castrated choir boy, and I'm like, hi, I'm a castrated choir boy. I have no balls, so I trade very conservatively and I stay safe. And I talk like that for like an hour. So I'd rather teach people.
Are you still selling that today?
Yeah, I mean, they still love the DVDs. Literally, like, we still send out. My mom ships. Like, my mom says hi, by the way.
Yeah.
I told her I was going to see you.
Long time.
We still ship out DVDs to some people. I don't even have a DVD player. Like, I don't know how that works, but it's just about the education, and the rules from 5 or 10 years ago still apply.
Yep.
And now I look at it as history lessons. Like, you learn about pumps, you learn about like crypto, for example, right now, or AI.
Yeah.
Companies add .ai to their corporate name. Exact same strategy as .com to their name 20 plus years ago. Exact.
Yeah.
And the stocks triple or quadruple over a few days when they add .ai.
Yeah.
Same thing. Even when we had the big pandemic, the same stocks that rose during Ebola rose.
Yeah.
Ebola was just a very small thing. Thankfully, the pandemic sadly was much bigger, but it was the same stocks.
Yeah.
So history repeats, and I'm basically a glorified history teacher.
Yeah. Speaking of AI, what are your thoughts on the NVIDIA chart at this point? That's gone completely gangbusters. If you look at the monthly chart on NVIDIA, it's fucking crazy.
So there's NVIDIA and there's SMCI too, which is like wannabe NVIDIA, and that went crazy. I don't like trying to guess new industries and new products, what they're worth. Like NVIDIA, they've invested tens of billions of dollars. They have a huge head start. Do you want to value it at the X or Y? How fast is AI growing? I don't know. That's literally, that's a big boy stock, as like my haters refer to me. Let me know when you want to trade big boy stocks. I don't want to trade big boy stocks. I like my higher odds, non-guessing game type of plays. I wouldn't have thought NVIDIA would go this high, but if I had been a short seller, I would have been crushed.
Yeah.
And I would be bitter and I would look like crap, like most short sellers do. So like, you can judge based on what you think, but the market is just going to trample on your hopes and dreams.
Yeah. So when you stopped short selling, was it because of a string of just getting squeezed and just being like, this is just no longer irrational or the stress involved that...
it was a mix. Stress, squeezes. Like, I saw the squeezes going high. I mean, I always cut losses quickly, so I never really got like hurt that bad. But also for me as a teacher, even when I would win, even when a play would crash 50,
somebody
70%,
else would get ruined.
No, not even that. I would have subscribers cancel. And I was like, I just nailed this pump. I called it 2 weeks ahead of time. Why are you canceling? And they're like, no, I don't understand short selling.
Yeah.
So I was like, so if I win and I'm dead on, students don't like it because they can't understand it. If I lose, then some students are going to get crushed because like they're not going to handle the risk. What's the reward? Yeah. And then squeezes kept getting bigger, and it's so much easier just to ride them. Like almost every day, I'm buying a big pre-market runner that's up 50, 100, 200% with a news catalyst. I'm buying it 20, 30% off the pre-market highs. Invariably, it goes back to the pre-market highs or higher. And I'm locking in like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 a day with so little risk and stress. Yeah. And we're here in Asia. You know, you trade crypto at different hours. You said like the stock market sucks hours wise here too. I'm going to bed at midnight. I want to like nail and bail something near the open. Short squeezes are perfect. Yeah. So why don't you give us a little breakdown of kind of like what your approach to trading is now after doing this for what, 20 plus years? 25 years. Yeah. I started in 2005, so I'll be 20 years next year. So like I'm going to Japan with Jack Kellogg to celebrate him crossing 12 million. He's turning 26. Yeah. So it's like I've been like trading since he was like a little, embryo. Yeah. Which is crazy. Now he's made, nearly double what I've made. He's already up nearly $1 million this year. Yeah. So for me, I like to teach just a very simple framework. I have a 7-step framework that I came out with where it's like, what do most pump and dumps like? They go through different stages, right? Where it's like 1 and 2 is like a slow ramp. 3 is where it speeds up. 4 is the crash off the highs. 5 is a dip buy. When it crashes too much, the promoters or somebody's going to bounce at 50%. Then 6 is where you can short sell. And I call 7 the long kiss goodnight, where it just fades into oblivion forever.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to teach people repeatable patterns and predictable patterns that work more times than not. Whether it's AI, whether it's a pandemic play, it doesn't matter. It's just the same psychological stuff. It's like I don't know if you've seen like that greed and fear chart psychologically.
Yeah.
It's based on that. And so I'm teaching that every day, just trying to find stocks that fit the 7-step framework. Like, oh, this is a number 5 morning panic dip buy. Oh, this is a number 3 run up. And I'm just teaching the basics.
Yeah.
And again, $2K a day keeps a real job away. And that's my whole
So you
goal.
basically have a framework so that you can look at any sort of pump and dump or whatever stock you're looking at, and you get like, okay, this is in stage 1 through 7. And this is where we can take advantage of based on whatever step it's in.
Yeah, and you have higher odds sticking to this pattern. Like you asked about NVIDIA, I could give you we could talk an hour about the pros and the cons. It still wouldn't get anyone closer to the truth. Because it's all guesswork. A case can be made for it. A case can be made against it.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I stay away from what I don't know, and I focus on, what I do know. I'm like fishing in my small pond. I stay away from like deep sea fishing.
Yeah. So with that, have you found, like, the reason why I switched from stocks to crypto was a couple things. One was I was, again, traveling for 2-3 years at that time, and new time zone, you're always locked down in New York.
Yeah.
No matter what,
Yeah.
which is fucking exhausting. I'm sure you probably feel the brunt of that for sure, since you've been bouncing around for a while. And I got basically just fed up with it to the point, because I also think it affected my performance.
100%.
I was in a new city, new country every month, trying to get adjusted to sleep, and sleep is super important to function properly. So that was one reason.
How's your 8 sleep going?
It's actually not good.
I saw your check. I thought about getting it, but then I was like, I'm never in my bed, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah. No. Unfortunately, it's been 4 nights of fucking dog shit. I don't know.
I saw they responded to you, though.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So
They're
they
like, oh.
messaged me on Twitter and said, hey, give us email. I haven't responded to them yet. So hopefully I can figure it out.
Sleep is tough. I'm doing 40 countries a year, which is a lot.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I love it. Like, I've tried to stay in one place. This summer, I'm staying in one place.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. But again, you just find what works for you. You know, like,
do you own anything back home in the US?
I bought a place, actually 3 places down in Miami.
Yeah.
Very similar to this.
Okay.
Like what you have here.
Yeah.
But in Miami, and my parents live there, and I go back every now and then. My mom does my laundry. She's happy.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Good deal.
She makes a badass matcha latte.
Yeah.
So I go back every now and then. But like, we have charity projects now in 46 countries. And I just feel very fulfilled. You got to find what fulfills you. Once you make enough money, that's a good problem to have. Like, you have to get like financially free, so you don't have to do the 9 to 5. But then there's a whole new set of problems where, like, when you have so much money, people treat you differently. You have too many options. And then a lot of people who are very wealthy are very depressed.
Yeah.
And I always tell them to come to Bali. I was like, there's most people here have very little to nothing, and they're happy just to be alive, their family. It's perspective.
Yeah.
So I found what works for me: traveling and donating and teaching.
Yeah, that's great. I want to talk about that, all your other stuff that you're doing as well.
Yeah.
But I want to finish what my point was for switching from stocks to crypto was also that one was just I couldn't fucking sleep at all, because market opens 10:30 if it's depending on the
Daylight savings.
Which was one. So sometimes I'd be up at 3 a.m. staring at my phone in the chart, like, is this fucking short gonna fucking squeeze, or am I gonna get fucked? And I'm just like sitting there, cortisol pumping, no sleep, and it was just miserable. But then I quit trading for 2 years, which was like one of the most peaceful 2 years of my fucking life.
What'd you do when you quit?
I was trying to start a new business, which was based on internet marketing, being that I had sold millions of dollars in courses and marketing on YouTube. I was like, okay, well, that's also something I was pretty good at. Maybe I'll start getting into that, which didn't go as well. But at least I did have a lot more peace of mind, because trading in general is just fucking stressful when you're constantly in a trade, constantly wondering what's going to happen next.
Especially when you're trading profitably, and then like you do one trade too many and all your time gets wasted because then you have a loss.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I just stayed up all night. I did nothing. I feel like crap. And I lost like $5,000. And it's like the worst of the worst. And you're like, so I understand.
But what I found 2 years later, once crypto started kind of pumping again, this was like when it was like at 10, 12K for Bitcoin in 2019, maybe.
Yeah.
I just started looking at altcoins and started realizing that the patterns were almost the same as small cap penny stocks. And I was like, this is interesting. And then I just started dabbling there because one, I didn't have to stay up late. It was 24/7. And two, it was basically the same four patterns that I had been trading stocks for the last 17, 15 years at this time. So I'm just wondering, I think you said earlier that you hadn't done anything in crypto, but have you ever looked and found similarities? Because that's what migrated me, especially one that moved to Asia when I could no longer be imprisoned in New York time. Yeah. That's what I found.
I've looked at it. I know I've heard from people that the patterns are the same. I mean, Harry Ye, who we were talking about, like one of my penny stock traders moved to crypto and now he's made hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah. And I was just on his 3 yachts in Dubai. It was like ridiculous. So there's more money to be made. It's like the Wild West. Unfortunately for me, because I've like had so much experience with penny stocks, like that's where I know my stuff. I also, have a patience problem. So if I would ever be in a crypto trade, I would have to stay up 24 hours, which is not ideal for me.
That's another thing that's bad because it is there's no fucking weekends. Even on the weekends, like this whole weekend, I'm sitting there because I'm pretty heavily long right now. I'm like fucking looking at Bitcoin.
I can't sleep if I'm in a position like the stock market. I have a weekend strategy. The stock market is closed, so at least I can sleep and I'm not worried. Yeah. But I can only imagine how stressful it must be. Worse than that is that I have so many imposters all over the place. Timothy's like 432, Timothy's like private group. They all do crypto. So for me, when people come to me and they DM me like, you scam me for 2,000. I know how you make your money, you crypto scammer. And I'm like, I warn every day. I have so many warnings. And it's just easier for me to say, I don't do any crypto. It's not me. Yeah. And that way people start to understand, oh, damn. So unfortunately, like the imposters killed it. And also, who are you going to call if you do get scammed? Like, there's no real rules. It's like the Wild West. So with the stocks, like even though Atlas Trading got off, I mean, there's still there's some kind of justice in the stock market and insurance. Crypto, nothing. So I feel for people who've been scammed from my imposters or other imposters, but like you bring it on yourself trading the Wild West.
Yeah, I got a bunch of them as well, but at this point, I used to try to take down their accounts and go report and do all this shit.
We take them down and then they pop up.
I just gave up because they just come back. And I was like, okay, this is fucking helpless. Like it's a Facebook, YouTube, Instagram problem. Yeah. They need to figure it out. Yeah. Like as individuals, there's really nothing we can do because you report it. They just sign up for a new fucking account because there's no verification process or anything.
Education is the key, right? If you teach people what scams are and how to spot scams, they won't get scammed. Yeah. So that's why I do that. I think that there is a lot of opportunity. I mean, I see patterns everywhere. I've heard that there's the same patterns that I teach in the German market and the Australian market. I'm like, I'm tapped out already. Like literally, I have to try to stay sane. Like I tell my students this, they're like, what about this play? What about this play? I was like, guys, I'm holding on by this much. Yeah. You don't want to push me over. Okay. Right. It's like Eminem song. Like if you tip me, my tank is on empty. And if you offend me, I'm lifting you 10 feet in the air. I don't care who was there. Like, I'm so close to borderline insanity. So I don't want to go over. Yeah. That would just push me over. I'm in a nice, safe spot overlooking the insanity
Stay in the bubble.
asylum.
Yeah. That's funny. So I noticed you have your Stocks to Trade shirt on. So why don't you tell us about what that is? Because you started that a while ago.
So yeah, I mean, just software just to help with scanning. It's got charts, it's got scans. Now we have AI. So a lot of AI programs that can like just compute everything and crunch numbers. So we have XGPT, we have Oracle, we have Iris, all these little tools. And I say it's kind of like Star Wars with different droids. Like you have R2-D2, C-3PO, and it's just AI and programming tools can help us see patterns that we humans might not necessarily see. And I've argued with the AI on Stocks to Trade. Like sometimes it's like, it gives like XGPT gives a buy alert every day at 3:15 of just something that's up and that could have legs for the next day. Yeah. And sometimes it picks the same stock 2 or 3 days in a row. And I was like, I would never buy a third green day. The AI is broken. Yeah, and then it gaps up and I'm just like, and it's just beginning. Like
Yeah.
AI, I really think actually has potential. I mean, .coms did pay off for most companies, not all companies, but the internet became a huge business. I do think AI has potential, not necessarily to take over as much as people are afraid of, but especially when it comes to crunching numbers, because we just can't do it.
No, there's so much potential. Like when you look at, even to try to backtest a trading system or your strategy, to try to do that manually is just stupid. It's going to take forever to comprehend, but with an AI system, you could probably just
Tim
accelerate
Bertani
that.
came up with an algorithm and it made like 900,000 in like a month or two and he was pumped. And then over the next 6 or 9 months, it bled out the 900,000. And he's like the smartest guy that I know. I was like, if Tim Bertani can't do it and he's like putting all his time into it, I'm like, no.
Well, that's the problem with systems, is that the market is always changing. And once you create a system, the market's just going to continually evolve. So if you're not constantly evolving the system to whatever market you don't even know is going to be next, it's going to continue to.
This is why I like teaching. You know, I can always adapt to different rules. Like, I mean, I used to suck at riding short squeezes because technically the companies are trash. They're going to crash. The short sellers aren't wrong fundamentally, but I've gradually gotten used to it. And every day I tweet, I'm like, thank you, short sellers, for creating so many opportunities. You toxic leper fucks. Like, I appreciate the sacrifice that you make for everyone. You sacrifice your health, your wealth, your sanity. I can only imagine how crazy it would be to be a short seller. Like, they're huddled up in the corner, like, but there's no fundamentals. It's being promoted by Chinese WhatsApp scammers. And like, they get so offended. And I'm like, just buy the scams.
It doesn't matter. It's hysteria. You can't fight hysteria.
They try to reason the unreasonable. And there's a saying like, you know, the stock market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent as a short seller. A lot of the biggest short sellers have given up. Like Jim Chanos, who came out with like the Enron expose, he doesn't short sell anymore.
There was the one guy, what was it called? Like the lemon?
Citron.
Yeah. I think he got fucked over on GameStop, right?
And then he's had a few big losses and he's frankly like, he goes long sometimes. So short selling is just tough. You can be right about the fundamentals, but it doesn't matter. You can't last. Like even the biggest short sellers who do make money, they're always one trade away from like blowing up. You know?
Especially if you continually dollar cost average against the position, you have no idea how high this thing's going to go.
All it takes is one. I mean, we saw HKD, we saw ILAG. HKD went from like single digits to 2,000 plus. Like even big companies like Avis Car Rental. I know a lot of great traders who lost 7 figures because Avis Car Rental quadrupled in like a day or two. And it was like stupid. You're like, what?
It's a car rental company? Why?
Because it's just supply and demand. When there's too many shorts, everyone thinks it's like a layup and it turns out to be a trap. So ILAG was like, there was all these like scammers like posting on WhatsApp and it was just like a little short squeeze and it turned into huge because they caught all the shorts off guard. The problem is whether you're short selling or going long, there's groupthink. Everyone in a chat room buys one stock and it's like, follow the leader. And I try to teach, never follow any alerts, never follow anything. Figure out this stuff on your own. Use alerts to say, okay, here's why Tim Sykes is buying. Oh, Tim Sykes cut losses. Oh, Tim Sykes doubled up. Right? So like, look at somebody else. I'm not saying ignore alerts, but like use it to build your own process. So all my top students are self-sufficient. They don't need me anymore. And it's fantastic. I actually just tweeted about this today, kind of just in crypto, there's communities based on a fucking coin. Of course.
And it's just like so stupid because it's not a team sport. It's you take advantage of an opportunity, you get in, you get out, and milk it for what it's worth. Whereas like XRP, for example, it's got this huge following, Ripple. It's probably the worst performing coin, one of them in like the last 5 years. It's still the same price 5 years ago, but it has this massive following about the potential of what it could do because it's like this groupthink cult of no matter how bad it gets, based on this idea, they've completely destroyed their wall of defense. So no matter how bad it's going to get, we're going to stick together.
Ape strong together, you know, Dogecoin, like everyone loves these long shots and they like trading together. It's fun to talk about in groups. They do meetups like, you know, and I'm like, no, be antisocial, like be on your own. I mean, I got in a fight with Trevor Milton, who ran Nicola, NKLA. He blocked me before he got arrested for fraud. You know, and I was like, this is so wrong. You have all these promoters. Everyone's like, hold. And I'm like, the stock is up 10 times. Like, that's when you sell. Sell half, sell a third, sell whatever. And they're all like, no, I would never betray my community. And I'm like, you guys are just lost. Like you're just helpless. And we've seen this with so many pump and dumps. There are a million different OTC plays. I mean, I had an article, I think when we were trading stocks, where I took on like the Wolf of Weed Street and he was pumping up all these weed stocks. And there was a reporter following him. He was like trending on Twitter. And I was like, these are all pump and dumps. It doesn't matter if weed gets legalized, the stocks are going to crash.
Yeah.
And they were like, you just hate this. You're like a narc, like all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, ignore me. And then they all crash. Patterns repeat. And you really have to recognize that. Do not follow anybody else's trades. Even if you're successful, you're always dependent on them. Right? The whole key to this game is being self-sufficient. So by all means, be in a chat room where everyone's like doing something, but be strong enough and wise enough to get away from the crowd and just do your own thing. Yeah. I've tried, even in my career of doing this 20 years, I've tried to follow your alerts before. Yeah. I used to try to follow Investors Live alerts because he was getting in some of these big pump and dump stocks. Yeah. And every time I try to do it, it turns out in failure. Yeah. It never works out. One, because you would have to take every single trade they take exactly the same way. Yeah. Whereas most people, they're like, okay, Tim's got a couple alerts. I'm going to try one of them and see if this one works. It's not how the game works. It's an average of trying to find your winning percentage as well as manage the risk of at least 2 to 1. I lose on a third of the trades, and it doesn't matter what my thesis is. Yeah. So like, I know my thesis. I have my plan. I recognize that. If you follow somebody else, you don't have a thesis, you don't have a plan, you're dependent on somebody else. Yeah. That's never going to lead to success. Okay. So like for me, it's teaching people to be self-sufficient, which is infinitely tougher. Some people like just create like copy trader. There's everybody wants like that. Loves the copy trade. Everyone wants it easy, but nothing worth doing is really easy. And if you're going to win in an industry where 90% of traders lose, like across all industries, 90 to 95% of traders lose. It's not like 50-50. It's not 40-60. It's 10-90 or 5-95. Which is the same as business startups, essentially. It's just kind of life in general. Startups and gym memberships. You know that 90% of people with a gym membership don't go to the gym? If everyone had a gym membership, there'd be no room on the machines. Yeah. But the gyms know this. Like, think about this in terms of gyms. Planet Fitness, I think, really mastered this. Think about this. People will go in January, new year, new resolution. February, a little less people. It's hard. It's uncomfortable. March, like probably half drop off. April, like another half drop off. Oh, then you need a summer body. So there's a little pickup in May. June is busy. Like it's January 1st or probably not January 1st, but at least the first week of January, everybody's New Year's resolution. So it's very similar where how are you going to get fit if you're just paying for a gym membership, but you're not actually going? No one wants to go through the pain or the suffering. Then you have this whole cult where it's all suffering, like, 75 hard. I want, to feel nothing. I'm going to be numb in these 15-minute cold plunges. Like, so there's extremes to both things. I don't think you need that much pain, and I don't think you should always want so much pleasure. I think there's a happy medium in between. Yeah. And if you're just consistent, like Kobe Bryant mentality, Mamba mentality, where you just put in the work every day. Ray Allen too, like a lot of basketball players. Ray Allen always used to just shoot threes. He was like one of the top 3-point shooters. Remember Ray Allen, right? The movie with them, Jesus or whatever it was. Right. But there was a great quote where Jesus Shuttlesworth. Yeah, exactly. Spike Lee joint. So one time he won the NBA championship with the Miami Heat. Beautiful, shot threes, beautiful. The next day after the championship, he went into his dentist's office, and the dentist is like, "What are you doing? You just won the NBA championship." And he's like, "Yeah, I need to be here for my teeth. Like it's just another day." Yeah. So the greats, they just look at it every single day. LeBron James, he's really good now in what is like 15th season. He's still good because he trains during the off season. He's not like just taking it easy and like losing all of himself. Like he trains hard. All the top athletes train hard in the off season. Why can't people do that in trading? Why do you want to like take it easy? Why do you want to be short term? If you think of this as like a marathon, you're just training, you're repeating a process, and then you're reaping the rewards of being so prepared. Yeah. That's what I think. Do you do cold plunges? I got an ice bath right there, bro. You're $6. I want to knock that off the roof. I like air conditioning. I think my cleaning lady was actually in it. Well, the glass. She broke the glass. She said it was the storm. Yeah. But I think she was standing on top of that to like clean something and leaned on that glass and shattered that glass. And then she's like, the storm. I don't like cold plunges. I have done cryotherapy though. I like that. I can deal with that better. I have sensitive skin, I think. It's not even just about the cold. It's not fun. I did sauna. I have a sauna and an ice bath here. I did both this morning before you got here. So like my Jewish nose, like I get saunas, like give me like sinus infections. Like I know myself, right? Yeah. But I don't, if it works for you, fantastic. Like meditation works for some people. Find what works for you. But I don't think you need ultra pain and you don't need to be ultra lazy. I think if you find a process that works more times than not, you'll be surprised at how it can really pay off in the long run. Like, you've been trading 20 plus years. I've been trading 20 plus years. You learn so much over time versus somebody who's been trading like a week or a month or a year.
Yeah, it's really funny to see the mentality of people on Twitter that have just gotten into trading or just gotten into crypto. They speak with so much confidence and all this stuff because they haven't gone through the pain that everybody goes through in trading. Pretty much, I like to say and tell people that it's a rite of passage to blow up your account.
Yeah,
because that you need to feel that pain to know what happens when you break the rules. Essentially, trading is a rule-based system.
Yeah,
and if you break the rules, you're going to get disqualified. And so it's like, if you don't experience that in the beginning, you're going to experience at some point. And the farther down you go, you might have a bigger account that you're going to lose more. So it's definitely beneficial to happen early.
You want to lose big early in your career. This is why I tell people to trade small, because you're probably going to lose. Like Jack Kellogg, over 12 million now. First 18 months, he lost 10 grand.
Yeah.
And he took 3 months off. He was so frustrated. But the plays kept happening and he kept learning, whether he's trading, whether he's paper trading, whether you're trading small. But if you learn the lessons early on, you save yourself. Like in American hedge fund, you see me turn 12,000 into nearly 2 million. But there's one chapter where I lose like $1 million. I lost like a third of my hedge fund. And
what happened on that trade specifically?
So I invested in Cygnus transactions. They invented print at home ticketing. I was like, this technology is going to change the world. I was right about the technology, wrong about the company. They invested too much. They had such debts. I trusted the new CEO. He looked at me, not on a table this big, but like a table closer. And he looked at me in the eye. He's like, don't worry, Tim, when they were struggling. I was like one of the biggest shareholders because I kept putting money in. He's like, don't worry. You've invested in a good technology, a good company. We're fine. It was like 2 weeks later, he declared bankruptcy.
Really?
I didn't know at the time. I was like, oh, well, I lost a third of my hedge fund. That's when I was on Wall Street Warriors and I was drunk in every episode because I was like, life sucks.
Yeah.
I didn't know at the time. He bought the company in bankruptcy. Stephen K. Brown. I remember you, Stephen K. Brown. I'm going to haunt your dreams forever, you. He bought the company in bankruptcy, kept all of the contracts, later sold the company for hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
But wiped out early shareholders and debt holders like me.
Yeah.
Good lesson.
So he bought Cigna in the bankruptcy that fucked you over and then turned it around.
He kept all the contracts, but there were too many debts building the technology.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't work with this. So let me wipe out these debt holders and then start fresh, but they had the technology.
Yeah.
And how was I to know, like, you can buy companies and things in bankruptcy for like pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
So he finagled his way. Yeah. Whether it's legal, whether it's not illegal,
Smart guy.
I don't know. It's unethical. And he walked away with hundreds of millions. So Google Stephen K. Brown. Remember, he looked at me in the eye. That was the worst part. We were at like Starbucks. And I was like, I have a third of my hedge fund, man. Like at the time I was a short bias hedge fund, but I fell in love with the technology.
Yeah.
You can't fall in love with the technology. You can't fall in love with stocks. You can't fall in love with investments. You can't fall in love with communities.
Yeah.
It'll break your heart. But that $1 million loss was the best thing to ever happen to me, because after that, that's when I got on Wall Street Warriors because I was depressed and drunk. It became a hit. I recognized that there was a need for real teaching. And so it led me to everything. So there's no mistakes if you keep going. There's only a mistake if you quit, if you let a loss get to you and you're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
You cut off your education. I've never had $1 million loss. I've never had $100,000 loss again, because I remember the pain.
Yeah.
Like you said, you have to learn what not to do. Like a baby with hot water, right? Or a baby with a grenade.
Yeah.
Baby with a grenade.
You probably won't have a chance to learn again.
You might not come back. But baby with a hot water, like the baby doesn't know, like what if this water was steaming and the baby touches it?
Yeah.
And the baby gets burned. You're not going to do that again.
Yeah.
So you
and
need
it's necessary. If you just tell it that water's hot, don't touch it, they're
always going to want to
Yeah.
know. So like you have a long checklist. You have to lose big. You have to lose small. You have to learn what it feels like to lose small. Like I have a lot of 1%, 2%, 3% losses. Those are good losses.
Yeah.
That's, even though it looks bad, because newbies just think like, oh, loss, bad trade, win, profit, good trade.
Yeah.
It's not that simple. I have a lot of good trades where I lose 1%. I'm wrong. The market's wrong. Something happens. But all great traders learn how to take small losses. It's part of the journey. If you don't learn how to take a small loss, you're only one loss away from blowing up.
Yeah.
Same like short sellers.
Yeah.
So you have this huge checklist of lessons. Like newbies get pissed if a play runs without them and they're like, oh, I missed it. Now you have that experience. Now you'll remember not to miss it, or, maybe try to be a little earlier next time.
Yeah.
The market is always teaching us.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about Karmagawa.
Yeah.
which is what you're doing here now, I believe, to build schools and stuff. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what that is and how you even came to the idea or started that?
So trading gets old after a while. Like the adrenaline rush disappears. When I make $10,000 on a trade, I used to be like, yeah, I'm the man. My first $100,000 trade as a college freshman, I took my whole dorm out to dinner.
Yeah.
We're all like loving Fire and Ice in Boston. Shout out to them.
And 100K 20 years ago is probably like fucking $1 million.
Exactly. Inflation-wise and perspective-wise.
Yeah.
I made an annual salary in a day and I sold too early. And next day it would have been 200,000.
Yeah.
Huge education. It fades, right? There's like the law of diminishing returns in the market. Some people are like, why do you even care about the market anymore? I don't. It's just a means to an end. I like the process of trying to make money, whether I take a small position or not. But now I donate all my trading profits to charity. It makes it meaningful. So if I trade with a small account, it's just not fun at all. Like making $200, like who cares? Not to be like a dick, but like who cares?
Yeah.
But then $200 for charity, I know how far that goes in Bali for a family in need. So now I'm like, okay, I can make a little, I can teach the right process. It's win-win and it makes it meaningful. And if I make $1,500, to build a home, we have 13 homes now in Bali. We just started building these. It's $2,500 per home, which is so cheap. So if I make $2,500 on the day, it goes to a new home. And I'm like, this is amazing. And I taught my students the process. A new school is $25,000 to $35,000. So sometimes it takes me like a few weeks, but now we have 52 schools here in Bali. And then I talk about on social media, I have a big social media following. So we've built 52 schools here in Bali, but because I've shared so many photos and videos, we bring influencers and creators here to Bali, which I pay on my own, just so that they can recognize like these projects. Now, Bali Children's Project, who we build all the schools with, they've built 112 charities. So now they are 112 schools. So before us, they never built any schools. They gave like books and toys, but now 52 of them are ours. But because of social media, we've now doubled the impact of every donation. So you're finding ways to find meaning in your life. You're finding ways to, do the right thing, teaching, trading wise, and then helping people in need. So win.
That's awesome. Is it just Bali or other places in Indonesia?
So we're in 32 countries around the world, Guatemala, Ghana, Laos, Nepal, Cambodia. I'm going to Thailand. We have 2 new schools there. So it's schools, animal rescue centers. We have 2 recycling centers here. Plastic is a big problem in Bali and the Philippines. So it's whatever we can do to help the communities. But I think schooling is the most important. That's why we donate the most to that. It's about education.
That's awesome. It's cool that you're doing that. That's
you got to come to one of our school openings.
Yeah, I'm down.
It's crazy.
I'd love to do something with Karmagawa.
100%.
Yeah.
You want a school? You want a Cameron Fu school? Can you get this on camera? Recording?
We could do a school.
I try to get traders to donate. And you can name it whatever you want. Like I used to name the schools after me, but then it's like, I don't need that. Like it used to be the Tim Sykes Foundation. And in Cambodia, we have a soccer field. All the kids are wearing shirts that say Tim. And they're all chanting Tim. And they think this is like what a rich white guy wants. And I'm just like,
this is kind of embarrassing.
This is like a Black Mirror episode. They're all, picture 500 Cambodians. Tim. And I'm just like, they have fireworks that say Tim. I'm just like, this is my nightmare. So we changed it to Karmagawa. I took on a partner. His name is Bad Boy. I don't know if you met him. Great photographer. Charity changed his life, so he's paying it forward. Gawa in the Tagalog language of the Philippines means to do or to make. So it's like we're making good karma. Yeah.
Well, let's just, we can discuss after this podcast what that looks like.
Let's go. I got one other trader to build a school. I'm trying to get more traders to, donate, take a tax deduction, but like you feel so much pride in the people don't understand in first world countries how important education is. Like people are like, you don't need school. Let me just go smoke out back. I'll skip class. Here it's life or death. If you don't learn how to read, if you don't know math, you're going to become a manual laborer. And it's a slippery slope. Why should your family send you to school when you can make 50 cents or $1 like manual labor? And then it's every day. And it's like, I choose getting paid rather than going to school, spending time, spending money on money that I don't have for the chance that it might pay off 5-10 years later. So you need to like start that process. Just like traders need to get educated, people need to get educated, kids need to get educated.
You don't know if you don't know. And somebody doesn't tell you, then you have no idea. I was just also mentioned something on Twitter the other day about so many people, me and you have both traveled all over the world, which...
How many countries are you up to? Keep a spreadsheet, son.
I honestly don't
I'm at
even
134. I'm running out.
That's
There's only 197.
Yeah. But the point is, so many people stay in their hometown for their whole life. And when you're in your own hometown, you don't know what the reality of the world is because you're seeing other things, but you only see a perspective, your perspective of what that is. But when you go out and see things, you actually see what the reality is. And that's like, that was the biggest life-changing moment for me, is seeing the reality of what else is going on in the world. And also thinking that America is kind of like the center of the universe, which I've gone back like 2 times in the last 5 years. And I see what's looking like now. It looks bad from the outside perspective. But that's also my perspective.
No, it's true.
Not the reality that I haven't seen myself based on the current times. But I just think if people do get the opportunity to do so, want to get educated, but also take the opportunity to go see the world, because it's life-changing for sure.
The more you see what the world actually is, the better you'll be, because you'll know your place in the world. You have better perspective. Like people who live in big cities, LA, New York, Miami, and then Vegas, like there's a whole like quad where people just go from place to place. A lot of toxic people, only interested in money. Like, you know, if you make $30,000 a year in Bali or pretty much most around the world, like you're very well off. If you make $30,000 in America, you're depressed. You're like, I deserve more. Like perspective, right? So like going to third world countries, I think is such a huge part of my education. I did semester at sea when I was back in college. Amazing thing. It was like 400 girls, 200 guys on a cruise ship going around the world. It was fun, but we're also going to crazy countries. That was my first time in like Vietnam, India, Kenya, South Africa, Cuba, Brazil. We had Castro speak to us in Cuba. It was crazy.
Really?
He's trying to like influence us. And we're like, shut up, old man. I was thinking like if I was trained in weaponry, like I could assassinate him. Like that would be my most opportunity to get most famous, but I know nothing about weapons. I don't like blood, so I let that pass. But like,
probably a good thing.
Cuba was messed up. Like that was my first time experiencing like communism. Like even just at the restaurant, all the menu prices were the same. I was like, chicken should not be the same as lobster. This is wrong. But it was
crazy.
Perspective, right? And you come here, most people make like $1, $2, $5 a day in Bali, in the Philippines, in Indonesia, and a lot of third world countries. You just become more grateful for everything. And then when you give back dollars, like your money goes far. I can build a school here for 25 to 35,000. You're not building a school for 25, 35,000 in America. So
not going to happen.
Money goes further. The US dollar, for all the complaining, it's still pretty strong worldwide.
All right. Well, I think we getting close to wrapping this up. So let's close it down with one last question, which would be, from your 20 years experience and all the things that you had to go through, despite going through things that made you who you are, all the mistakes, what would you say to a new trader who's learning to get started that does need to learn? You want to help them avoid as much pain as possible. What would be your advice to them to get started and go through this process to find success like your other top students?
I would say, you know, like recognize what's worked for my other top students. Recognize it's a marathon, not a sprint. Like I have now data on 40 plus millionaires from start to finish. And none of them made much in year 1 or even really year 2 while they're learning, because I'm teaching them to trade small, even paper trading at first. You got to learn the ins and the outs, how fast these plays can move. Like you said, like you got to learn from experience. Sometimes you're gonna be too early, too late. You're gonna miss a play. All of this adds to your education so that by year 3, 4, 5, you have now a foundation, right? So picture college. I think college is a scam, but I like the idea of like learning for 4 years. You wouldn't like go to college and midway through college be like, okay, I'm ready. I'm going to get a job. It's like, no, I need to put in the 4 years, and some colleges like 6 years or 8 years or 10 years, which is crazy. But like you put in the time first and then you get prepared. Trading is the same. The difference is people think that it's going to happen overnight. And the worst thing that happens is actually it does happen overnight. And then you learn the wrong lessons. And then you're like a flawed, like child star in Hollywood who's going to end up like a druggie or like suicide victim, like in the teens. So you don't want success too fast. It's actually better to learn through the ins and the outs so that you're prepared by year 3, 4, 5. Like this isn't rocket science. Like trading is hard, but it's not like, oh my God, I'm never going to get it. You need to have the patience to go through the learning curve at first, and also recognize that there's different markets. Not all 3 or 5 year periods are the same, right? Like in 2020, 2021, you could be a moron. The dumbest people in the world made the most money because they just hodled, but then they lost half or most all their money in 2022. So you recognize that the most money you'll make will happen over several years. The most lessons that'll really sink in will be years, and to go in with that perspective from the beginning. And that way you're not going to get too excited. You're not going to get impatient, and you can really reap the rewards, because whether or not you're prepared for the market, every day, especially in crypto, but every few days in the stock market, there's a really good opportunity.
Yeah.
And the question isn't, is there going to be a good opportunity? The question is, are you prepared to capitalize?
Yeah.
Do you have the proper brokerage account? Do you have the proper planning? Have you seen this pattern before? Do you know your support and resistance? Can you execute? Most people can't. There could be a perfect play. Most people watching this tomorrow, perfect play, perfect setup. And they're like, because they don't have the experience, they don't have the know-how. So you needed the experience, you need the know-how, and then let the market help you for life.
Yeah. It's the market that pays you, not the other way around.
And it's not every day. It's not on your schedule, okay? The market is always going to be there. There's going to be pumps. There's going to be scams. There's going to be AI. There's going to be crypto. There's going to be some new technology. But no matter what happens in the world, it's opportunity to trade the volatility. Trade crypto, trade NFTs, trade stocks. Just recognize that like anybody can lose. Most people do lose. And you can't ever get too cocky. Otherwise, the market will humble you.
Yep. All right, Tim. Great to see you again, bro.
Good to see you on this crazy. Can we do like a Stretch Armstrong kind of thing? I don't know how you do that.
Slide.
Yo, this is gonna get wet. Ah! Sorry.
All right, that's a wrap.